Welcome, Daniel. We're going to record yet another interesting session. It may appear trivial, but I believe it's important. We're going to talk about the tabernacle and its coverings. When Christ came, the Word became flesh, and not just dwelt, but tabernacle, that Greek word skenao. So in essence, Jesus Christ became the tabernacle in which divinity dwelled. And so let's look at the symbolism here. There are four types of coverings. The very first one was very colorful. It was blue, purple, scarlet, fine woven linen. But by the way, I find it's interesting that they were to use linen that would not make them sweat.
In this, it should be first noted that these four coverings have a practical purpose. It is a tent, and it needs those layers to protect it from the elements. There's intention with each design element involved in this. Because here, the inside, it's beautiful. Imagine what it would have been like first having four layers, cuts out all light coming from the outside. But when you walk in, the menorah is just illuminating these threads, this tapestry, and all the embroidery on it. It would have sparkled in many ways, I have no doubt.
So you're adding sparkle to the colors of blue and purple and scarlet. It had embroidered cherubs on it, and these sheets were connected with golden loops. And you're right, it was visible only inside, because the very next cover would cover it from the outside eyes completely.
And not to rush too quickly, but so imagine gold and cherubs and blue and red and purple. These are the colors of whenever God is present. He stands on a sea of sapphire. From his legs comes a throne of a river of fire. And so for some reason, when God manifests his divinity, it usually appears with this color combination.
And his feet, what he stands on, described as lapis lazuli, blue.
Yeah.
And so some suggest it points to Christ's perfect righteousness and sinless humanity. I would say it represents divinity. It represents heavenly realm. And again, only priest could see this beauty from the inside. It's hidden from human eyes. And so when Christ came on earth, people look at him from outside, they could see human. They did not see divinity inside of him.
In some effect, the same covering over the sanctuary is the same color combination covering over the high priest of the sanctuary. So visually, people would have also have seen that there is something about this individual and his service that is it just, even if if someone was a foreigner and had no concept of what the sanctuary was in ancient Israel, they would see that man, they'd see that building, and they'd say something goes together there.
It's interesting because you're right. The high priest, his garb was blue, purple, and red. So the combination of colors would be carried on from inside to the outside through the high priest. Now, the next layer was goat's hair, and most suggest it was white, but could have been gray, could have been black, because goat's hair is different. Tradition has it white. It was longer than previous layers. It was 30 cubits. That means one extra on each side, covering completely. And it had an extra curtain, which was doubled at the front, kind of to support the shape of the entrance. And the couplings were not gold anymore, but bronze. So as you go from the center, away from God's presence, the value of metal somewhat diminishes. Then it was covered by this ram skins dyed red, symbol of blood. And you could look at practical thing, it was to protect from rain, although there was no rain in the desert, right?
Yeah, but there's still, these ramskins add a level of leather involved, and so, it would have also been very almost hermetically sealed. Like
That's right.
breathe in that place. Yeah.
It's a heat insulation too, but it also points out to that skin, to the sacrificial skin, the humanity that Christ puts on himself, which will be wounded, which will be beaten.
In a previous lecture, and I can't remember the verses or if it's there, but sacrifices, you sacrifice everything, but you save the what? The skin. So
That's right.
very likely all of these rams would have been sacrificial offerings. So it's literally the tabernacle is covered in the sacrifices of the people. And if that is intentional, and what I think it would be intentional, but that is something to keep in mind that these skins would have been the remnants probably of sacrifices.
So sacrifices everywhere. And then comes the outer layer, which is really funny because in King James it's called budger skins. And what are the budgers? Where would they get these ideas of budger skins is a puzzle. Okay. Tachash, Tachashim. So look how different translators handle it, these budger skins. That term Tachash in NIV is durable leather. Other suggest it was goat skins, but some get even more creative. Amplified says porpoise,
Manatee.
dolphins, right? Manatees, Holman, or seal skins,
Now,
which I find interesting.
half of these things that are being recommended would not be, and most rabbinic readings, to my memory, would agree nothing that is unclean is permissible to be used in the sanctuary. And half of all those things there are unclean animals. And so,
Especially budger.
yeah, it's a paradox that the
Right.
manatee, an unclean thing of the sea, or the badger, which is not a clean animal, would have been used in the making of the sanctuary.
And it's funny because some say, well, maybe they brought some from Egypt. Maybe Egyptians traded. Maybe there are some people who hunted seals in Gulf of Aqaba and brought some, and there's seals in Mediterranean. But again, that would be ridiculous because everything is about the sacrificial system there.
Mhm.
But I find funny how the durable skin becomes a budger skin because budger, yeah, it's one durable animal. I mean, even lions are afraid of honey badgers. But there's no way that Moses would send Levites to hunt these badgers to create some covering for the sanctuary.
Look, accessibility. This may be tangential, but the King James makes some flaws because it was translated by people who did not live in the area, who did not know the ecology of the area.
And so not to go too far and not to lose our audience, we are not bashing King James. We're just saying let's be realistic as we read it. So again, yeah, there are dolphins in that part of the world, but again, those covers were not made from these creatures. It's funny that Hebrew rabbis in Talmud suggest that Tachash was a unique creature created specifically for the construction of tabernacle. And it was a rainbow color. It had many colors, okay, coat of many colors, and existed just for that. And then there was no more Tachash. You see, so humans, we go to extreme lengths to create myth and fit our agendas. Septuagint translated it as blue skins. And Vulgate changed color even more. It suggests, well, those were probably purple. The violet colored skins, because remember, there's a red, blue, and purple. And it's not identifying the animal, it's simply saying these were just durable skins covering the outside. No matter what it is, I believe those were goat skins on top of the ram skins because those were main sacrificial animals.
I would go even further because it's an obscure animal if it is an animal. There is a clean animal also used in the sanctuary system that we have their horns, but we didn't use the animal. You have to think of the shofar. What if it was made from the skins of an ibex or one of those creatures?
But well, the deal was if so, they should have been domesticated first. Now, look at the meaning of these colors: purity, holiness, righteousness. No one questions that. Red, blood, sacrifice, purification. It's interesting that purple is royalty and kingship. Even recently, when Charles visited USA, certain president wore purple tie, not a red tie, but purple because it's royalty, right? And of course there's a blue, which is a color of obedience. That's why tzitzit and garbs had to be blue because it's God's presence and obedience. But the main idea is this: the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, tabernacled with us. Jesus became God's tabernacle. Those covers simply represent the humanity covering divinity.
Amen.
Humanity, the flesh and muscles and blood, covering the divine presence in this world. It represents God's glory veiled by his humanity. I find it interesting that the author of Hebrews suggests that Jesus' flesh was also that veil, kata petasma. And that's something we're yet to talk when we go to analyze the book of Hebrews, because Jesus did enter behind the veil upon his ascension. He did not wait for a few centuries to get there. He did enter the veil. And so again, this is just another reminder that everything in the tabernacle points out to Jesus.
The mystery of the sanctuary is ever deep, and we'll only fully know what Tachash was when we get to the kingdom. But that should also go to say why people who are trying to recreate these things, perhaps that's why God has allowed some of the meanings and definitions to become obscured, so that we can never try and go back in the history of salvation.
So we're ending on a lighter note with these skins today, but our next presentation will go into the book of Hebrews, and we're going to look at chapter 6 and 10 specifically to understand, where did Jesus go?
Amen.
How does Bible present his heavenly ministry, as we're coming to the end of this series on the sanctuary? God bless you.